Hey Wildcats! For those who don't know me, my name is Mrs. Austin and I work in the Wood STEM Lab. You've been learning a lot about physical properties of matter, and today I want to talk to you about one of those properties, which is density. Density is how much space an object takes up, or its volume, in relation to the amount of matter in that object, or its mass.
Let's compare a basketball and a 16-pound bowling ball. These two items are pretty close in size, so we would say they have similar volume. What would it feel like if you accidentally dropped the basketball onto your foot? You'd definitely feel it hit your foot, but it probably wouldn't cause much pain. Now imagine what it would feel like if you dropped the 16-pound bowling ball on your foot. That would cause a lot of pain and maybe even some broken bones. So the mass of the bowling ball is much greater than the mass of the basketball, even though their volumes are similar. This means that the density of the bowling ball is greater than the density of the basketball.
Now let's look at a liquid example. I have here some chocolate syrup and some maple syrup. Now their volume is similar. There is more maple syrup than chocolate syrup, but it's still a similar volume because the containers are very small. But when I move the containers around, see the chocolate syrup is moving really slowly and the maple syrup moves much more quickly. This is because the chocolate syrup has more mass and is therefore denser than the maple syrup. What happens when you pour a lower density liquid onto a higher density liquid? Will it mix in with a higher density liquid or sit on top of it? Let's find out. I have 12 different liquids here, all with different densities, and I have them lined up by their density from greatest to least. So we have honey, corn syrup, chocolate syrup, maple syrup, milk, dish soap, water, which I've colored blue, vegetable oil, extra virgin olive oil, rubbing alcohol, which I've colored green, baby oil, and lamp oil. I'm going to slowly add each of the liquids in order of density, greatest to least, into this glass, and we'll see what we come up with. So first, I will put the honey right down in the center of the glass. I will put enough in to form a layer. And now I'm going to very slowly add the corn syrup on top of the honey. Here's a closer look after adding the corn syrup. Can you see how there is a layer of corn syrup just sitting on top of the layer of honey? So because the honey is denser, the corn syrup does not mix in with the honey, it's just sitting on top of it. Let's add some more layers. Now I'm going to slowly pour in chocolate syrup. You can see how there is a layer of that has formed on top of the honey and corn syrup. And now I'm going to pour in the maple syrup. I'm using a syringe because it's really important on this layer to make sure that you do not add too quickly. The maple syrup and the chocolate syrup are so close in color that it's kind of hard to see the different layers, but if you look carefully, you can see that there is a definite difference in look right here, and there are definite layers between the two types of syrup. And now it's time for the milk layer. Because our liquids are getting easier to pour and less dense, I'm going to be using a syringe to put in the layers just so they don't get messed up. So there's our milk, and you can see that it sits right on top of the maple syrup. And our next layer will be dish soap. All right, now we have a layer of dish soap, and you can see that there is a little bit of mixing in with the milk. I think that's probably because it came out too fast, but it's still definitely a different layer. And now we are halfway done. So we've got 6 layers, and let's see what we can do with the other 6. All right, now it's time for the water. You can see that the water is sitting on top of the dish soap. And as it settles, you'll be able to see the layer even more. All right, now we're going to put in the vegetable oil. And you can see that layer that's just sitting on top of the water. Now we've got the olive oil. I wanted to show you this one close up because the two oils are very similar in color. The vegetable oil is a little bit lighter, so I just wanted to give you a close-up so you can see that there are the 2 different layers. All right, now we're going to put in the rubbing alcohol, and I added a little more green food coloring to make it darker so that it would stand out a little more. Looks like it did start to get into the oil layers just a little bit. I'll turn this around a little so that we can see it better. So if you've been counting, we're at 10 layers now, and I'm going to put in the baby oil. All right, now I have a theory that I want to share with you about why these layers didn't separate quite as much as I thought. So I'm going to show you the rubbing alcohol I used. You can see that it says it's 91% alcohol. What that means is that 91% of the liquid in this bottle is the rubbing alcohol, and the other 9% is water. And what I've noticed is rubbing alcohols do come in different percentages. I've seen some that is 50%, and there's some that's 70 or 75%. And alcohol has a lower density than water, so the more water that's in it, the denser it's going to be. So I'm thinking that this 91% alcohol is a low enough density that it is very similar to the baby oil, which is why those two didn't separate. I bet if I would have used a lower percentage of rubbing alcohol, then they would have separated more. But we've got one last layer, so let's get it done. All right, our last layer is the lamp oil, which has the least amount of density. I'm struggling to get this out of the syringe as well. I'm gonna try a different approach on this one. All right, I got a smaller syringe that maybe won't be so difficult to push this out. Oh. All right, so there is our density tower. You can see all the different layers. So as a reminder, we have honey and corn syrup and chocolate syrup, and then here's this little maple syrup layer, the milk, dish soap, water, vegetable oil, olive oil, rubbing alcohol, and baby oil, which again kind of mixed together, and then we have the lamp oil at the top. I wanted to show a close-up with a little extra light, if it maybe makes some of the layers easier to see. I think it looks pretty cool. Hopefully you do too. So what we've learned today is that liquids that have different densities will sit on top of each other and make layers instead of mixing in, because the liquids with the higher densities are too dense for the lower density liquids to mix in with. Hopefully you've enjoyed learning about density, and I will see you next time. Bye.